Hello, guys. Hello. I thought I would check in on this channel now, and I was thinking about like what to do for this channel today. Because last week we did a little promo and the Miss Marvel things. We actually did two videos last week for this channel. This channel is getting a lot more videos than I've been on as recently, just because the time I have time in the morning on Fridays. So this is just kind of what I do. I get on and I ramble. I ramble, people. Anyway, I was trying to think about what to do today. I would like to do a Thor: Love and Thunder review, but I'd like to do that with Anna because we watched that together. Whereas Miss Marvel, I watched by myself, so that's why I did the review for that. So I was thinking, like, oh, what can I talk about? I wouldn't mind going more through high school at some point or into college, which I had talked about doing. But I kind of wanted to do a little bit. I thought today I'd just go over like stand up because I've mentioned stand up in the Turbo Turkey videos a little bit, but I didn't really go into how I got into it or how things happened and things like that, and why I don't do it anymore. So I thought I would just go do a little bit of that. I'm not going to try to go too long, God willing. But you know how I like to talk, as many people have told me, my parents included. So I can talk and talk till the cows come home, especially when I'm caffeinated. All right. So anyway, guys, stand up. So essentially, to get into the stand up story, I have to also close that real quick. Close. I said, yeah, save it. That's cool. Sir, save. That's great. Sorry, distracted by things on my computer, my old computer, my other computer. So anyway, so I'd always liked stand up growing up and all that. But like it was always one of those kind of things of like, I don't think I could do that, get up there by myself. Because, I've done theater. Of course, before this, I had done some sketch comedy and improv before I moved out to Seattle and stuff like that. But I'd never done stand up because I was like, well, it's one thing to be playing off other people doing improv, but it's another thing to be getting up there by yourself. And I fully admit the first time I got up there, especially with an audience, it did give me a little bit of stage fright. Not like I've never had a real problem with stage fright. Like some people get on the stage for the first time, they're like, "Oh God," or they're gonna throw up, or they're gonna have an anxiety attack, and it's like me. I was just like, "Cool, I'm on stage, cool." And I had to become a better actor eventually, but I wasn't great at first, as I mentioned in the high school video. But anyway, it was we had ended our sketch comedy group. Decided to move in different directions and all that. And I was kind of sitting there kind of, well, but let's get my other friends decided to move in other directions. And I was kind of like, oh, well, shit, now what am I going to do? Because Anna was still wrapping up LSU. So I wasn't quite sure where, her plan was, what she wanted to do yet. I'll talk about that in another video, how that all went down. But obviously, we eventually ended up here together. So it all works out. But anyway, so stand up. I had always wanted to do it, but I was kind of like, I don't know if I could do it. So anyway, I finally decided, you know what the hell, let's go for it. So I just went to there was a Funny Bone Comedy Club is what it was called. They had been in Indiana for a long time. They were at the mall for a long time, and then they moved to where 100 Center is. Um, and I just thought, on a whim, I was just like, I kept thinking about doing it, and I'm like, all right, why don't we just write a few things down and, go out there and just try it, you know. And so I went there, and they were very, very open, and I was kind of shy, because that's just whatever, and I'm in a new situation, I'm just kind of like, oh, quiet and reserved, I'm just kind of observing things, observing the people. Um, but it was cool, because like I said, I met Jack Hole and John Osborne at the workshop, and they said just go for it. And then what they was great about it is they give you like feedback on your jokes and stuff like that, like, oh, try it this way, or maybe try tweaking it. Because John himself had been doing stand up for a long time. He had won the comedy competition, and he even admitted when he first got up there he was just like really nervous and stuff like that, but like even the audience just said just talk to us, and that kind of loosened him up and all that. So it was what was great was that Janet, who had run the Funny Bone, had started this workshop so they could help other stand-up comedians to grow and get eventually get guest sets and things like that. So I started. Yeah, I started. It was like a Thursday night. It was Thursday. Yeah, it was Thursday nights. Every Thursday night, barring any unforeseen circumstances, we get together. We try out new jokes, and then John would always tell us to start working on like 5 to 10 minutes set. Just like, these are going to be the jokes you're going to start with, which was really helpful. It was great. Like I said, everybody had a good time. Everybody gave each other good feedback. And it was cool. And what was cool about it too is you could also stay for the show, because they always had stand-up comics performing that night, performing for a weekend. You'd have an MC, you'd have a guest set occasionally, then you'd have a feature act, and you'd have a headliner. And I got to see Kevin Nealon. I got to see several other comedians whose names I can't remember at the moment. But it was cool to see Kevin Nealon. That was like a birthday present to myself. But they also had the comedy competition, and I'll fully admit I was definitely not ready. But I did it anyway because I'm like, I'm just gonna try, And I was very nervous, and I was doing the thing that I always do now with my hands, that I've always done because I like to move my hands everywhere. So anyway, that's kind of how that got started, and I didn't win, and that's okay. It was more this like, I remember I was like, because my friend Miho was in there too, and he was super funny. I remember the guy that won our round, I think he ended up winning the whole thing. He wasn't bad, but he also brought 20 people. So it's like, who are these 20 people going to vote for? Okay. But, their friend or family, whoever they were. And it wasn't that he was bad, but like in our round, I thought Miho was the best myself. I thought his was the funniest, in my opinion. So I thought he deserved to go a lot further in that round and stuff. But hey, it was a good experience for me. I did do another one at this other place. And it was funny, that same guy was there and he won that competition too. I'm like, damn it. I need to find 20 people who can be there every time to vote for my ass. Anyway, it was fine though. But the thing with stand-up was just like, sometimes you have moments of like, man, that was really fun. And I really feel like I'm growing. And then other times you go up there and you do a set in front of an audience and you were just fucking terrible. You're just like, they didn't laugh at a goddamn thing. That sounded great in front of my mirror, but no one's laughing. Well, shit. So it was a little while before I got a guest set. It takes a little while, of course, which is understandable. But I think it kind of, Jack and John were great about, seeing when people would get some more confidence and were putting a set together, because that's what they were trying to do. And that was what was great about it, is that they were really helpful, and we became good friends as well through it and stuff. But like, we'd hang out, go drinking afterwards and stuff like that. And there's a story of that in a little bit here, but which was cool. And that's the thing. I think that's something that, whether it's sketch comedy, theater, anything in the arts, stand-up, whatever, I feel like people should help each other more. I feel like that's why I started teaching improv too, because Jet City helped me get started, and then I feel like I can help, I just help people in Turbo Turkey and all that, but I want to help other people get started. I want other people to find their love for this and build their confidence up, and I think that's what more people need to do, because there's so much selfishness sometimes in the arts, whether it be through theater, stand-up, whatever. And I feel like, it's just, why you got to step on other people, just to screw people over, or just like fuck with people. It just feels kind of stupid and petty, but that's the world we live in. So anyway, but after a little while, I got to do my first guest set. I was very nervous. Billy Gardell, if you guys know, he was on a show called Mike and Molly. It was a show that Melissa McCarthy was in. They played a husband and wife. It was a sitcom. I'd seen a few episodes, but he was the headliner, and he actually gave me a free CD and signed it and everything. Super nice guy. I was a little bit nervous. I didn't do bad. I had a few decent jokes. But that was my first guest set. And then after that, I want to say, when did I go to? There was one time I went down, it was in August, and I got a guest set in Fort Wayne. They had a comedy club down there called Snickers, I believe. Yeah. And I just went down there on my own, just because, I'm just going to give it a try somewhere else, see how my jokes do. And it was actually a lot of fun. I went down and, the comics were I did a guest set down there, and it was, about 5 minutes or something like that. But I had this joke that I did, and it was actually referenced because a friend of mine in college, his name was Schmo, and he had done this. He had to make up a monologue one time, and he made this whole monologue up about, you don't know Johnny and all this stuff. And I kind of took that because I'm like, this is funny, this is funny as hell. This has got to be, And while it wasn't my monologue, it wasn't anything where he's gonna be like, oh, that fucker stole my shit, you know, because it wasn't like that. He never did stand up or nothing like that, so it wasn't like I was taking for another comic, but it was more just, it was something influenced. I'm like, oh, I can make this work with the joke I'm doing, because my original joke was basically that I had worked at Martin's Deli. For those of you from the Indiana area, Martin's, it was a horrible freaking job, working in the deli. If you ever want to not, if you ever want to become a vegetarian, which I did not become, but it's a good place to become a vegetarian because you're dealing with all this meat all the time. You're smelling it. You got head cheese. People want head cheese. It's freaking nasty. And yeah, it was very stressful. But anyway, I got fired from there after 3 months. But there's one time they had not taught me how to use the intercom, and these people asked. They said they were out of hamburger in the deli, and wanted to know if there was more hamburger somewhere. And I just got on the thing, not really knowing how to do it. I was like, yeah, we need some hamburger back here in the deli, just like that, you know. And I got in big trouble for it. And it's like, well, you guys didn't show me how to use the goddamn proper way to use the intercom. First time using an intercom. So anyway, I decided I wanted to do that as a joke, but then I needed something more to it. So I was like, well, why do I tie in this? What if I'm an actor who decides to say the sales, you know, and then basically goes into this, and this is a monologue from the play, Johnny, you know, and then I did the Johnny thing, and then wrap it up with like, and also pedigree's on sale. So that got a lot of laughs, and that joke grew pretty well. So that was fun, doing that and stuff. But yeah, I did that down in Snickers. I remember the one guy, or no, it was actually one of the time at the workshop. This comic was like, he thought it was from The Outsiders, you know, like, do it for Johnny, you know, which it was kind of, I guess I could have been influenced by, and I could see the reference to that, but it was cool. He also told us, Jerry Seinfeld once told him, he says, write down everything. Like, no matter what, write down everything because it could be a joke. And I was like, that's good advice, you know. Yeah, and then as time went on, a couple of us, me and Miho and Paul Lau and this other guy, Robert Nemeth, who was a super nice guy, we went down to Indianapolis to do their comedy club, to do a couple guest sets down there. What was their comedy club called? Because Snickers is the one in Fort Wayne. I can't remember. It's been so long. It was a long time ago. This was before I moved out here, obviously. But anyway, we went down. We all had pretty good sets. The drive down was great. You know, we stopped at a Dairy Queen that was right next to an adult store. You know, it's just like comedy. But we all had a great time, and those guys are great. Paul had actually gone to my high school, Riley, and he was like a year behind me and all that. But super funny. He was a super funny guy too. Him and Miho was great. I was like, Robert was like a super nice guy. He was like super nice, but he would have this really fucked up sense of humor. But he was great though. There was a time we went. I'll tell you a quick story on that. We had gone out afterwards to a bar, and they had a karaoke there, and we did some karaoke and stuff with that. And he was talking with this girl and all that, and they ended up like making out at the table. I was just like, okay, whatever. I had a joke about that too, about how back in high school and college, people would just like, whenever they'd sit next to me, suddenly they just had this instinct to make out. So, it's what I do. Set in the mood since 1978. Yeah, so that was fun. Well, not so much for me, but it was like, okay. But anyway, she ends up being like really like accusing him of stealing her wallet or something. It was like I don't know what was going on with her, but I just remember he was taking me back to the Funny Bone because that's where I left my car because I'd driven with him. And you know, at first he said he was, you know, he's trying to reconcile with her and talk to her and all that. He says, well, I was having a good time with you and all that, you know. And I was just like, oh, well, you can just drop me off and you guys can talk. And Robert's like, oh, no, it's okay. I'm going to drop her off. Where you got other cars. He's like, I did not want to leave me in the car with her. She's acting a little bit out there. So it was funny. Sadly, he actually didn't end up sticking around. I think, unfortunately, he didn't get to do a guest set, or he was going to do a guest set and they just told him don't do any jokes. And it was just like, I liked Janet, but it felt like, man, it's like, come on, he's funny. Like, I thought he was, I really thought he was funny, I thought, you know. So he kind of lost his confidence. He popped up once or twice after that, but I think, you know, he got married, and he was like a city planner, too. Like, he had a real job, so it wasn't like he was just going to, like, quit that to do this, you know. But you know, I feel bad that he didn't stick with it, because I thought he was really funny. And a super nice guy, too. Hope he's doing well. I lost touch with him, unfortunately. And then let's see. I remember I got to do another. I got to MC. That was the coolest thing because I'd done a couple guest sets and those were fun. But the first time I got to MC, because they were kind of going through the people from the workshop. They give people opportunities to do guest sets, and they're like, hey, or like, I liked what you're doing. Do a guest set tonight. You do 5 minutes, or you're going to MC, do this, this amount of time. And the first one I got to do was the headliner. I'm trying to remember who was the feature act. I'm trying to remember what his name was. It's been a long time, but I remember Danny Bevins was the headliner, and that was super cool. We had a great time. He actually made a joke called when he saw me, I was the MC. He's like, "Oh, it's Screeching Napoleon Dynamite had a child." So he said, "You can have that joke if you want. Use it for yourself." I'm like, super cool guy. But we had a great time. We had a great weekend. So now to that drinking story. He actually took us out. Me, John Osborne, and Jack Hole. 4 of us went out and just shots. Now at this time I was saving up money to eventually move out here, and so I was kind of keeping that on the down low until I knew for sure when I was leaving and all that stuff. But anyway, I was working overnights. I would deliver newspapers, just to make extra money, and I was working at Walmart at the time too. So it was like I was working 2 jobs. So that one was like I'd go in at like 3 or 4 in the morning, give the papers. I'd deliver in an apartment, just an apartment complex basically. So it wasn't too bad. But that was a job that, like, with that job, like, where you can call out of other jobs, you can call to that job, but someone has to do your job for you. So anyway, I can tell that I am freaking getting hammered here, having a great time, but getting hammered with Danny Bevins. And so I call my family, like, hoping my brother can do it, or my family. No one answers. And so I'm like, fuck. So I wait there a little while to sober up as best I can. And I'm ashamed to admit it. I'm not proud of it. But due to circumstances, I did have to drive, get the papers, and then go to that apartment. And I'll fully admit, I was stumbling around walking. I am absolutely not condoning it. I'm not saying it was the right thing to do, but I had no one to cover it. And, luckily there was no cops nearby that arrested me or anything like that. That would have been a very embarrassing situation. But not proud of it. It is what it is. Learn from it. Don't ever do it again. Never did. But that was a funny story, and it was a good time. And I regret that I did that, but beyond this comedy weekend was great. I had some of our friends come out and see it. It was great. My confidence as an MC was boosted as well, and Danny Bevins was super good, giving some like notes and stuff like that. And then the next time I got to actually MC again was kind of my farewell to the Funny Bone, as I let everybody know that I was moving to Seattle to pursue, along with stand-up, theater, and things like that, and to be with my girlfriend, who I'd, been doing long distance for 5.5 years. So that's a story for another day too, the me and Anna story, and just all of my romance, lack thereof. But anyway, a little Pepsi there. So anyway, before I moved out to Seattle, I got to go down to Snickers again. My friend Jack Lundorf. Was just a super nice guy, funny as hell too. And then Paul and Miho, we all went down and did guest sets. I think Paul was just there to support us. Well, I drove us down because I got in a new car, a Mitsubishi, the one that got repossessed when I got to Seattle a couple years later. But at the time it was brand new, so it was cool. So I drove us down. We all had great sets. We had a great time. We had this one, we had this running joke in the car, and I think it was from like something at Bobby Lee, who was on Mad TV. Paul kept quoting it or whatever, and it was like we all just kept going. It was like, I sucked a dick once when I was 17, and it was just funny because it just kept coming up in the car ride. He's like, you sucked a dick once when I was 17, and it was just, I think it was something that Bobby Lee had said in the story once or something like that. But it was just funny. And we had such a good time. It was a nice kind of final hurrah before I did my final MC thing. And those guys are all great. I love all those guys to death. I haven't gotten to see a lot of them in a while, but everybody at that workshop was great to me. I have no qualms or bad blood with any of them. Like I said, Rob Williams, Brett Eastburn, yeah, he's great. It's like all very talented and very nice people. Like I said, there were definitely, like I said, nobody at the workshop to me was ever a dick. I think it was more sometimes you'd see comic shows and then some of the comics were kind of dicks. which was like, okay, like this one guy, I just remember, I don't remember his name. I just remember he came out to the bar and he tells this one girl, you know, she doesn't have to apologize because she's got great tits. And then like he goes out to smoke weed with this other girl, Amy, who is also very talented, and he's like, yeah, well, she blew me, and I just like all this like asshole shit. Like I'm just like, fuck you, dude, you're an asshole. But you know, you just indulge these people sometimes. But anyway, my last time emceeing there, which Janet was great about. I'm like, oh, I'm getting around town. There's a chance I could MC again. She's like, yes, absolutely, and it was great. I got to, God, I'm trying to remember who. It was a friend of Danny Bevins that was the headliner. But the feature act, Chris Shaw, was just one of the best people you'd ever freaking meet. And such a great guy. Because it's like, I was having some confidence issues here and there. And I remember this feature act guy said, oh, if you're bombing on jokes, just say, well, I'm sucking up here, aren't I? You know. And I can remember Chris Shaw said, no, don't do that, man. He says, you know what? Sometimes it's the audience. Because especially if you did the late show Friday night, audiences tend to be more like drunk off their ass, so they're more mouthing off. But he was like just great. We all hung out. I remember we went to the bar. He says, let's walk in like we're going in like Ocean's 11 and shit, slow motion. It was just funny as shit, man. And he had this great joke with like he says, oh, I got a t-shirt. I got t-shirts here, but if you come by, I'll roll it for you. And it was it looked like a big joint and stuff. And just like super nice guy. He came out here a couple of times. Unfortunately, I was broke off my ass and couldn't get up to where he was performing. But yeah, he was great to me. Like just absolutely treated me like a brother, and was just, you know, I know he's still out there doing stuff. So props out if you're out there on YouTube land and you see this. Thank you, Chris Shaw, for treating me so well, and thanks to everybody at the Phony Bump for treating me well. Because I was just a guy that, you know, I was kind of funny, but like I didn't have the confidence and all that, and you guys really helped me gain that confidence. And I think honestly it helped me on stage acting too, because when you're by yourself, there's nowhere to go but up, you know. So anyway, after I moved out here, I had a couple stand-up experiences too. I would say that was Indiana was definitely the pinnacle of my best stuff and best times, because yeah, then we got to the big city. Now my first actual stand-up in Seattle was at the Giggles Comedy Club, which is the first one that popped up, so I'm just like, oh, I'll go here. There were a couple others in Seattle, and there was some in Tacoma when I got here. One was the Comedy Underground, which I didn't get to go to till much years later. But I went to Giggles. I'm like, okay, well, let's check this out. And luckily, Anna was able to come. And Anna has a big, boisterous laugh. If you haven't seen our videos, she has a big, boisterous laugh. So anyone who's in it, whether it's a theater crowd, a comedy crowd, Anna's there to laugh. You enjoy it because, hey, you're a performer and she's laughing, and it's loud and it makes other people say, well, it's cool to laugh. This woman's boisterously laughing. Ha ha ha. Yeah. So that was really a good first experience there, because it was like, cool. Everybody's talking, oh, your girlfriend's freaking hilarious, or she's great. You know, I love having her in the audience. And I had a pretty good set that night. I had a couple of new jokes I tried out, and that was a fun night. When I went back the second week and Anna wasn't able to be there, it was a different story. The guy running the place was just kind of a jerk off. Like, he didn't barely talk to you at all. He really wanted it to be a strip club, which he turned it into after a while. And like the second week, it was like you were supposed to have like a 10-minute set, and you were supposed to get a light. And there were several people just going through it. And I'm like, that never would happen at the Funny Bone. They would never just let somebody fucking do whatever the fuck they wanted. And it got to a point where, like, by the time I actually went up for the open mic, it was just like 2 people left in the audience. I went up and told 2 jokes, and I just walked out because I was disgusted. I'm like, this is bullshit. You know, you don't learn how to run a fucking comedy club. You know, it's like, fuck. You know, this is the big city. Maybe learn how to run a fucking comedy club. You know. Anyway, comedy's hard, right? Although I will say back to the first one, there was this guy with these big Coke bottle glasses he called himself Joey Schizo. And he went up there and he was like, oh, the level of dumb and all this stuff. It was just like, fucking hilarious. But not intentionally hilarious, but just like, Joey Schizo, what the hell? I guess he was from Marysville. But anyway, after that, I was like, okay, well, I'm not going to let that deter me or anything like that. I'm going to try out some of these other comedy clubs. So I did get to do a guest set down in Tacoma, and they said they didn't really do a workshop or anything like that. That was the other thing. There was no, like, comedy workshops. There might be now, but when I first got here, there was no, like, workshop type of thing. It was just open mics and like shows. So it was like, well, fuck. So I wasn't gonna have that cushy, nice, respectable, everybody help each other out thing here. So, but then there was a guy in Tacoma that was very nice. He said, "Well, we don't really do guest sets, but yeah, I'll come out and give it a shot." And he actually let me do it twice. I got to go do it twice. One time Anna was late and missed the show. Second time she saw it, and the set didn't go too bad. But he was super nice, so props out to him. I don't remember his name, sadly, because I didn't go back there after a while, but props to him. And then I went to Laugh's comedy spot in Kirkland area, and I went there, and it was the first night that I did it. It was an open mic. It was like an open mic, so I'm like, cool. So I signed my name up or whatever. And then the guy sees me, he's like the owner, a very nice guy. He's like, "Oh, you want to MC the open mic?" I'm like, this is my first time here. I don't know a goddamn person. Well, sure, why not? MC, why not? Meanwhile, I'm still kind of shy. I don't know any of these people. So I'm like, as I said, I was reserved into, I'm shy and bashful. And meanwhile, I'm supposed to be the MC. So I don't know anybody's damn names. I got the list. So I think one guy, his name was Ron Placone. I said Ron Placone, which, he laughed or whatever. I got a name wrong. But, it was fine. It didn't go too bad, other than a few mispronouncing names here and there, because I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. But I appreciated that he let me do that. And I kept coming back. It was a Tuesday night, and this was in between Jet City classes that I took. So I was like, oh, I need to do some stand-up. And I had some good sets there, some pretty good guys there, too. I really enjoyed working with them. And then came one fateful night, where they had me MC the open mic again. And I haven't told this story really on camera. I've told it to friends, but this is where I got to see some of the ugly side of stand-up comedy. I saw a few dick comics here and there in Indiana. But as I'm open micing, the mic stand just collapses. It just falls apart on stage. The mic falls over everything. I'm like, did this thing just fall apart completely? And I'm sitting there trying to fix it and keep things moving, but I'm also trying to keep things moving because there's a lot of people to get through, and I don't want to just be fiddling with this thing. And I'm not a very hands-on type of person with microphones and things like that, so I'm not like, oh, what the hell do I do with this thing? So anyway, everybody else had gone up, tried to kind of mess with it, and made a joke about it, and cracked on me a little bit, but all in good fun. And then this other guy goes up. I'm not going to mention his name because I don't want to give him any kind of press. For him it was just a Tuesday. For me, it was the worst day of my life, as the Street Fighter would quote. But yeah, he comes in and just says, there's only one place where I mic stand, and Axl Rose doesn't let shit. It was something along the lines of how insulting it was that we didn't fix the mic right away. And he apparently just put it right together like nobody's, and good for him for putting it back together so we can keep the show moving. But instead of just moving on from that and getting the act, my bad, I was wearing a Joker shirt. So I was already open for it. I shouldn't have worn that t-shirt, but it was a Heath Ledger Joker shirt. And he's like, yeah, Heath Ledger would kill himself again if he saw you wearing that shirt. And just proceeding to rip on all the comics there, proceeding to rip on me as an MC. And it's just fuck you. It's and I had to sit there and, shake his hand afterwards, but I really wanted to punch him in the face. But, I don't start violence or nothing. But in your mind, you're like, oh, I've got to stalk that guy. But, and like I said, I really don't fight people very much. I'm not someone who's going to just swing on somebody. But you think about it, though. You're like, oh, son of a... But anyway, I remember talking to some of the comics afterwards, and he's like... And he says, yeah, he was kind of a jerk off to me last time. But then I'm like, well, he's a comic. I'm like, no, I'm sorry. I don't know where this idea is that just because you're a stand-up comic, you have to be a dick to other comics. I have no problem with roasts or roasting the audience and stuff like that, but I was a fucking MC. All right, this is an open mic. This isn't a fucking... it's a show, but it's an open mic. So some of these people are trying this shit for the first time, and I wasn't the first time, but for me, it was just it really showed me an ugly side to stand up that I hadn't really seen, or I hadn't really experienced for myself so much. Because I can deal with some comic that's there one week and he's gone the next week. But it was just the fact that he just ripped everybody. It's because a fucking mic stand fell apart. I even talked to the guy, the owner guy, and he says, oh, that's okay, don't worry about it. It's not a big deal. It probably needs to be replaced, And he was super nice, so props out to the leader, the guy running the club. Very nice guy. They've actually moved up to the old Giggles location now. Um, but yeah, that just it, and I've told other people that story and stuff like that, and some of them have worked with him, and some of them know him and say, "Oh no, he's a good guy," like So it's like, yes, he was a good guy to you. He was a jerk to me. He was a jerk to all these other comics. And like I said, if you know me and you want to roast me, by all means, and I'll roast you right back, and it'll all be no problem. But when you don't even fucking know me and you're gonna fucking trash me, I'm not some audience member who's heckling you. I'm just a guy trying to have a fun at a stand-up thing. So I don't know. It just so anyway, from there I did do one more week, and then I got improv classes after that. So I took a break from that place. The next week was great. He wasn't there, and I had a good set. And then I didn't do it again for probably about a year. And then there was a place on Roosevelt that I went to one night, and believe it or not, he was there. I was like, fuck. Like, obviously he didn't remember me. I didn't say anything about it. And the thing is, he actually did his set. His set was good. I would have liked to have seen his set that night. Then I would have felt like shit. I did have a fun. There was this guy named Texas T, this black guy. He had painted his nipples or something. I forget what the joke was, but he was like lifts his shirt up and his nipples were painted. And I did this joke because I'd had this weird dream about Tom Selleck. And in it, as the joke goes, I was, he made me suck his nipples. It was really weird. It was a homoerotic dream. Texas T was apparently on it, said he was just fucking falling over laughing. There's more to the joke, but I've done a thing on Adam and Anna with it before too. But like, it was a funny joke, and it killed very well that night. So that was a nice comeback for that. And then I didn't do stand-up again until Josh actually started doing it. And we went to the Comedy Underground. We watched a couple guys there. And I did get to do it a couple times there, and it went pretty well. I did the Tom Selleck joke there, too. And Anna came out. And we did it a couple times. I went there a few times with Josh. There was another place called Jai Thai, which was a Thai restaurant, had an open mic. I did it a few times there. Josh did it more than I did. But I just didn't really. It was just kind of like, all right, well, this isn't bad. But I didn't feel like most of these comics are really laughing at my shit, or nobody's really, not that I'm like comics really don't laugh at your shit too much. So if they do, you've done a good job. But even the audience and kind of us are both not laughing. You're just kind of like, why am I fucking like? Because I was like, I had a sketch comedy group. I have improv. It's like, I think at the end of the day, I think while I definitely enjoyed stand up and I appreciate everything I learned in the workshop, I don't know if I'd ever really do it again. I did. There were times I've thought about it, like, maybe I'll look at my old set and go back. Especially when I saw Laughs that opened up over there. I'm like, maybe I should go out there. It's a Wednesday night. I could go out and do. But I think largely I just like, for one, I seem to have lost my set. I don't know where the hell it went. I had it printed out and I've looked all over the place. So that's the one deterrent. I'm like, I don't have another set. So I remember a few jokes, but like I don't remember my whole set. So it's like But anyway. To wrap it up more or less, I did appreciate everything. Like I said, I did the workshop. I appreciate everything out here that I got to do. But I think at the end of the day, getting to MC was pretty much as far as I really wanted to take it. I never expected to go on the road. I never expected to be a headliner or nothing like that. Yeah, it was fun. I enjoyed stand-up for the most part. A few bad experiences here and there. But, if you want to know the name of the guy who said that stuff to me, feel free to ask. I'm happy to tell you his name. I just don't want to put it all over YouTube and stuff like that. Because you know what? Shit happens. I get it. I'm not even necessarily holding it against him as a person. I just thought in that moment he was an asshole. And it was kind of uncalled for. Just my personal opinion. That's me. I'm a sensitive guy. I fully admit it. And I'll tell another story about that another time. We'll talk about my theater experiences more once we get through college. But anyway, guys, I'm going to wrap this up. Because Anna's going to be coming home soon. I think she might actually be home. Hello? Hold on there. Wrapping up something. So anyway, guys, that has been my stand-up tale. So hope you guys enjoyed this video. It's only 35 minutes. So, hey, give it a watch, give it a like, and I'll talk about college experiences next time. Thanks, guys.